It's been a while since I covered a piece of lost media on internet mysteries, and that's a shame because there's a lot of interesting ones out there. And today I want to check one of these off my list, which is the mystery of the Crackmaster cartoon. In the world of lost media, there have been plenty of children's programs that were lost with time only to be remembered in the back of a person's memory years later. Examples such as Crybaby Lane and The Clockman have been covered in this series in the past, but we have yet to talk about the strange mystery behind the Crackmaster, or sometimes simply called Cracks. Reports of this creepy cartoon started popping up in the early days of the internet. You had these people who distinctly remember the story of this monster they had seen somewhere on television, trying to find out if anyone else had remembered it as well. At first, people were skeptical of this supposed 1970s short film, but more people kept on coming forward claiming they had watched it.
So many of us remembered so many different little details that by themselves don't really mean much, but if you put them all together, we remembered the clip exactly as it happened.
Because of this, people started to obsessively search around the web for any clues as to what it was. To understand why people were so dedicated to finding this thing in the first place, we really have to establish some context. The Crackmaster supposedly first aired in 1975 on Sesame Street, a time where television wasn't very well documented. Then the short only aired 11 times over the course of 3.5 years before disappearing forever. Now that alone sounds pretty strange, but the vivid descriptions of what this lost piece of media was caught many people's attention. Looking through the accounts, people were recalling a narrator's soft singing, a camel ride, and most importantly, the Crack Monster, a figure that the main character confronts at the end of this legend, and would soon become the mascot of the search. Many swore that they remember watching this, but even with multiple reports, many were skeptical of its existence. Cracks remained an urban legend for years, with rumors about the short being banned or destroyed due to its frightening nature and causing mental distress for children. It all sounded like a creepypasta story. There was little information about Cracks itself, and many of the discussions were just about what it consisted of. Things started to change on September 20th, 2008, when Jennifer Bourne, who is better known as her online alias, Namowall, made a post on her blogspot describing how she remembered Cracks, and how no one could find it. John Armand, a radio host and musician, came across this post and left a comment detailing why he was so dedicated to finding it. He said, "I am 37. This clip would have aired between 1976 and 1978, and I was terrified of it and mesmerized by it all at once." John was looking for closure, and wanted to help bring publicity to the search effort. The two began having a back and forth conversation, and came up with various methods as to how they could locate it. One of the more ridiculous thoughts they had was as follows: "It's archived somewhere, but I am certain that the person in charge of it has no idea that so many of us are looking for it. I have thought about online petitions, but who do you send it to? None of us actually know who has this thing. I also thought about filing suit against Sesame Street, CTW, and public television for 30 years of nightmares and trauma. I won't seek any money, only a copy of the Crackmaster. Who's with me?" The idea of suing Sesame Street was on the side of absurd, but other more traditional approaches were also suggested, the most obvious being to politely contact people that may have information about the Crackmaster. This method showed some early success when John contacted an employee at the CTW archives and was able to verify that the Crackmaster did in fact exist. Their system showed that the clip was aired on Thursday, February 10th, 1977, during the first 15 minutes of episode 979. It was listed on the storyboard as, "A girl lying in bed imagines she sees a crack in the wall. Divergent thinking." Even with some new insight, they still did not have the video, so John kept on searching for information. This is where things go from just a usual lost media search to something much stranger. Because there were so many people digging around for the cartoon, the individual that owned the rights to the short began to notice and contacted John. It appeared that they wanted to stop people from digging around for it, so they offered to give him a copy of Cracks under a few conditions. He had to sign paperwork stating that he was not to copy or publish the clip anywhere, no exceptions. The party was very private and wanted to keep the film under wraps. After he signed the faxed over paperwork, the video was sent through his mailbox. To this very day, we still do not know who this individual was. This was beyond bizarre. Why was there so much secrecy around this children's short film from the 1970s? Why did the owner send him a copy but not want it shown to anyone else online? Why did they not want their identity revealed? It just doesn't add up. Some theorize that the owners of the content were worried that their identities would become known and scrutiny of some unknown form would be sent their way. In an attempt to get people to back down, they worked out a deal with the ringleader of the search so he would stop getting others to join the efforts. Either way, this was still progress since we now had somebody that owned a copy of the short film. Although it wasn't very helpful to the thousands online who weren't even able to see a screenshot from it. To appease skeptics, Jennifer met up with John while he was in town. He was visiting family in Los Angeles and brought cracks with him. They met up at 7:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning at the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. Though she wasn't 100% sure she was being tricked, once they reached the DVD's menu screen, she was convinced. In a post online, she said, "I put the DVD in my laptop. A plain menu popped up. A lone thumbnail image showed something I hadn't seen in over 3 decades. It's him, I said, like a crazy kid. It's really him." Although the short was found, some questions still remained. Despite being in contact with the rights holder, neither John or Jennifer knew anything about its production. None of the voice actors, animators, studio, nothing. Jennifer commented that the animation didn't look of a studio quality. Since they were legally unable to publish it, Jennifer drew some references to show other searchers how the characters looked. After that, however, things died down and people gave up. 5 years had passed with no new updates about the mysterious film. But that was about to change in 2012, when Daniel Wilson, a young Australian man, began growing interest in the Crackmaster. Being familiar with the previous attempts, he contacted both Jennifer and John in hopes of leads. But they weren't able to provide much new information. Daniel realized he needed a new lead. One rumor that was heavily prevalent in discussions about cracks was about the animator. As stated before, not even John Armand knew who had produced the animation, though it was commonly attributed to Cosmo Anzalotti. Cosmo is well known for his wide filmography, working on television shows such as Smurfs and Scooby-Doo. While Cosmo did respond back to their inquiries with a very nice letter, he unfortunately let them know that he didn't know anything about cracks. Discouraged, Daniel began realizing that his approach was proving unsuccessful, and started investigating the claim that the short had also aired on the Spanish version of Sesame Street. The logic was there was a good chance the Spanish version had the same cartoons in between the puppetry. One user of the Lost Media Wiki in Mexico went as far as to visit TV stations in person, with little to no success. This is when the searchers went back to the drawing board and realized what got the secretive owner's attention the first time around: unwanted attention. With this, they began a campaign across the web and shouted from rooftops about the Crackmaster. They started petitions, posted on forums, and even started making posters to stick around the real world. They wanted as many people as possible to know about this hunt. This brings us to Christmas of 2013. As Daniel is sitting in front of his computer relaxing, he receives an unexpected message from an untraceable email account. It's simply titled Crackmaster, with a video file attached. And when he opened it up, the movie that was missing for decades was staring him right in the face.
While laying in her bed, the cracks overhead more and more looked like a camel. "Today's a rainy day and I can't go out and play. Would you take me for a ride, camel?" Said the camel crack, "Climb upon my back." And right through the wall they did go. And in corner found a giant crack. "Who are you?" they said. The crack just growled instead and made himself look very big and mean. He said, "I am Crackmaster." But just then the wall plaster began to crumble to the floor, and where the monster stood were only beams of wood. He destroyed himself trying to be mean. Went each creature to his wall, and each knowing all was well where each crack lived. "Camel, thank you for the ride. The rain has stopped outside. We'll go and see the cracks again someday."
Even though there was no information attached to this email, it was clearly authentic. Upon getting the file, Daniel uploaded it online for the world to see. But unlike other searches for lost media, the release of this film was by no means the end of the mystery. There's so much information we still don't know about cracks. No artists, no names, nothing. Other pieces of lost media were found from finding and contacting names associated with their trademarks. With cracks, however, none of those leads helped. Instead, the people who had copies of it remain secretive and in the shadows to this very day. On top of this, no records in the trademark electronic search system show any signs of the animation. It's almost as if it didn't exist. But it did. While John confirmed his copy from 2008 was a recording from the broadcast, Daniel's 2013 version was from some sort of database with production codes intact. This would lead many to believe there were two different people who had access to it. Because of this, many started to question if the people John signed the contract with in 2008 were even the owners, since they didn't have the original cut but rather a recording. On top of this, the re-uploads of the film have never been taken down by a copyright strike, which if they really didn't want it to be seen, you'd think they do, although they may inadvertently reveal their identity if they did so. This all leads to even more questions about who these people are that had copies of Crackmaster and why they're so secretive. An interesting thing that happened in 2017 is that a VHS with the Crackmaster was discovered, and it was from a Spanish dub of the show. This provided the search with a few more names to look into, although it doesn't seem that this has gone anywhere yet. It's been over a decade since the official search for the Crackmaster started, and we still don't know a lot of things. Maybe someday we'll find out who made this film, who owns it, and why everyone involved has been so secretive about its existence. Well, there you have the mystery of the lost Crackmaster video, and if you want to watch the entire thing for yourself, I'll provide a link to it in the description down below. So until next time, thanks for watching.